coop at night for night flights. And we'd fly with the moon in this little teeny 1946 air coupe. Then from my bedroom, I could see the moon. So I think you get the moon into your visual body. And the first batik, which is dyeing on cloth with using waxes and dyes to make an image on cloth. First batik that I did was the Pacific Full Moon, which is in 1999, which is this piece right here. And what I did was I called up Jay Apt, who, let's see, where's the big book? The big book right over there it is. He was the photographer in history that had taken the most pictures ever in outer space in history. And I asked him if I could use the photograph that was on the back of his book. And he said, yes, you're Americans. You own that. You own that image. That's what we own because that's the way that our system works. Hope it never changes. But I got to talk to him a lot about what it was like since I'm an aerial photographer and he's an outer space astronaut photographer. He took the picture with Ektachrome film with a Hasselblad. I think that's pretty interesting. In 1995, I was the artist for NASA. And so I got to look at every single picture that had been taken up to that time. I got to look at all the lunar disk that had been made at the Smithsonian, and I went to NASA, the office, and they had racks and racks and racks of slides, because it was still film. It was prior to digital imagery. So I guess I have a lot of moons, maybe 26 moons in the title, and then I don't even know how many moons in the works that I make.
There's a question from one of our participants. Kellyanne wants to know if you could tell us more about the process of making a batik.
Oh, I can. I've got some tools right here. Batik is an ancient method of dyeing. You start out with white cloth. Can you hand me those two little white cloth things over there that have drawings on them? You start out with beeswax, actually, and it smells just like the bees and then the flowers that they go to. So the studio smells great. You heat up beeswax and paraffin to about 250 degrees, and then you use something called a chanting tool. Let me reach over here, which is this. It's a copper bowl with a spout. You dip it into the hot wax and you draw like this on the cloth. And the cloth is suspended on sawhorses, so it's floating. I usually do giant batiks because I do the biggest batiks in the world in history. But this is a little bitty one. I don't know if you can see the drawing. Can you see the drawing? Yeah, bring it up close. That happens to be a pteropod, which is the smallest little creature living in the Arctic that's affected by climate change that I'm doing for a book with Duke University right now. But what I do is I draw on the silk and pencil, and then I wax out the white because it's a resist dye method. The wax resists the first layer of dyes, then I wax and resist another layer, wax, dye, wax, dye, wax, dye, until I have the image. Then I iron it between newspapers, and that heat sets the dyes. Batik is an ancient medium. It began well before the Middle Ages in China, Japan, India, Africa, Greece. So I'm using a very ancient technique.
Mary Edna, one of the questions that was submitted for you as well was, might you use some of the new images that some of our recent missions are sending back, some of LRO's images, for example, of the trail of footprints between the module and the seismic and experiment stations?
Well, the way I work is if scientists send me pictures, like if your group sends me pictures and it strikes my fancy, then I'll probably make a batik of it for my outer space show. It's just got to be visually pretty stunning for me. So I would work with whatever strikes my fancy. It has to kind of fit into where I'm going right now with my outer space work. But I think I like landscape more than a footprint. And that's why the Sea of Serenity is so interesting, because it looks like the Earth so much. Like on Mars looks a lot like the Earth in some places, only their canyons are a lot bigger.
So if some of our participants picked images that they particularly love about the moon and sent them to you, some of those may catch your fancy?
That's right. You can just email them to info@MaryEdna. Say, you might like this. Today, because of the information that I sent out to all the people that contact me, I got so many visual pieces sent back saying, Mary Edna, you might like this. So I just stick them in my future exhibition file. And then whenever I get my exhibit, I write the things I want to do into my exhibit in the scale that I think that I would like to make it.